Wake up in the grind, clock ticking, 20 minutes flat, freedom main-handed, knives built with.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the 20-Minute Freedom Project. This show is for those who want ownership, discipline, freedom, and to build a life they've always wanted, one that is earned and not handed to them. I'm Josh Lopez, and today we're talking about self-control. Before you think about this as another lecture about willpower or cold showers, let me be clear about what we're actually talking about today. Self-control isn't about saying no to donuts or waking up early. While that might be a part of it, but that is only surface level. The self-control that actually changes your life is about something most people never consider. It's about controlling your mouth. I've been thinking about this for a few days now, and honestly, I've been calling myself out pretty hard. Because there's a quote from Dale Carnegie in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's been sitting with me like an uncomfortable truth that I cannot seem to shake. And he says, any fool can criticize, condemn, or complain, and most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving. And he's right. Any fool can criticize, and most fools do. But character, self-control, those are rare. Picture this. You are in a meeting, and someone says something that you know for a surety that is wrong. And you can feel that correction building up in your throat. And you're about to say, actually, that's not right. You're wrong about that. It happens in marriages. It happens in day-to-day life. It happens with your kids. It happens with work. It happens in every area. And here's what most people don't really realize. The moment you say those words, you've already lost. Carnegie says that when dealing with people, remember you are not dealing with creatures of logic. You are dealing with a creature of emotion, creatures blistering with prejudices and motivated by pride and vanity. We want to believe that people are logical. We want to believe that if we just present the facts clearly enough, people will see the reason and they'll see that we were right and they might have been wrong. But that's not how humans work. We're emotional beings first. Logic is just a story we tell ourselves afterwards to justify how we feel. So when you tell someone that they are wrong, you're not correcting their thinking. You're attacking their pride. You're wounding their sense of importance. And their immediate response isn't that, oh, you were right, thank you. It's defensiveness. It's resentment. It's putting up a wall between you and them. And all because you couldn't control yourself. Let me tell you what criticism actually does. It doesn't fix people. It doesn't improve any situation. It doesn't make you look any smarter. There was a poet named Thomas Chatterton, I believe. He was a brilliant writer. But bitter criticism drove him to suicide. Thomas Hardy, one of the finest novelists in English literature, gave up writing fiction forever because of stinging criticism. Now, I know what you're thinking. Those are extreme examples, Josh. I'm not driving anyone to suicide with my comments. That may not be. But how many relationships are damaged? How many opportunities have you lost? How many people have quietly decided not to work with you, be around you, or trust you at all because you couldn't resist the urge to criticize them? Most people walk around absolutely convinced their criticism is justified. But I was right. They say they needed to hear it. Congratulations, you were right. And you're also alone. You're also the person that people avoid. You're also one who wonders why no one wants your input anymore. Being right without character is just being right by yourself. Controlling your impulse to criticize, condemn, and complain, that's the whole game. Every single day, you're going to encounter people doing things wrong, making mistakes, being inefficient, missing obvious situations, and every single time you're going to have a choice. You can be the fool who criticizes, or can be the person who, with character, understands, who questions, who makes people feel important while gently guiding them towards a better decision. One makes you feel superior for about 3 seconds. The other builds influence that lasts for years. When Benjamin Franklin was young, he was without tact. He'd correct people, he'd argue, he'd make everyone know that they were wrong. And it nearly destroyed his career before it got started. But Franklin learned early, through a little help, and he made himself this rule: I will speak ill of no man and speak all the good I know of everyone. That discipline, that self-control, is what made him so effective that he became the American ambassador to France. Not his intelligence, not his credentials, his ability to control himself when dealing with human beings. Let me run this through a lens I use a lot in the show. The drifter versus operator. The drifter operates on impulse. Someone does something wrong, he corrects them. When someone criticizes him, he defends himself. Someone disagrees, he argues. He's constantly reacting, constantly running his mouth, constantly proving that he is the one that's right. And he wonders why his relationships are so shallow, why his influence is limited, why people don't respect him the way he thinks they should. The operator, on the other hand, he operates with purpose. He understands that influence is built on making people feel important, not making them feel stupid. He controls his impulse to criticize because he's playing a longer game. When someone makes a mistake, he doesn't say, "You're wrong." He says, "Help me understand your thinking here." Or, "What if we tried it this way?" He makes people want to improve instead of forcing them to defend themselves. And that's not a weakness. That's mastery. The drifter thinks self-control is about not eating a cookie. The operator knows that self-control is not destroying relationships with the words coming out of his mouth. Let me ask you something. What do you actually want when you criticize someone? Do you want to be right? Or do you want to be effective? Do you want to prove that they're wrong? Or do you want them to change? Because you can't have both. The moment you tell someone that they are wrong, you've activated their pride. Their entire self-worth is now tied to defending their position, even if they know that you are right. They can't admit it without losing face. There's only one way to get anyone to do anything. Make them want to do it and not force them to do it. You're not going to shame them, not prove them that they were an idiot. Make them want to do it. And you do that by preserving their dignity, by asking questions instead of making statements, by helping them to discover a better way themselves instead of ramming it down their throat. This is where most people fail. They think influence is about being the smartest person in the room. It's not. Influence is about making someone else in the room feel smart. Think about your life right now. How often do you criticize your spouse, your kids, your coworkers? How often do you point out what's wrong instead of what's right? And look, I'm talking to myself here too. This isn't a lecture from someone who has it all figured out. Nobody's perfect, and we are all working on this in real time. While we'll have good days and we'll have bad days, we're all still working on this. I catch myself all the time wanting to correct those around me, wanting to tell them why what they did was wrong, wanting to point out the inefficiencies in how someone at work is handling something. And every time I do that without self-control, I create distance. I build resentment. I make people less likely to listen to me next time I actually have something important to say. But when I pause and I ask myself, is this criticism worth the damage it will do? When I choose to understand instead of condemn, that's when things change. People open up. They ask for advice instead of resisting it. They actually improve because they want to, not because I force them to do it. Let me connect this to the faith element for a second. If you're someone who believes in God, who tries to live according to faith, think about how God deals with you. Does he criticize you into righteousness? Does he condemn you into holiness? No, he's patient. He's understanding. He leads you towards better decisions without destroying your dignity. And yet we are the ones walking around treating people with criticism, condemnation, and complaint. How can we claim to represent a God of grace while operating with zero grace towards people around us? Self-control isn't about social skill. It's stewardship. It's using the influence you've been given in the way that builds people up instead of tearing them down. Great man shows his greatness by the way he treats little men. Your character isn't revealed when you're dealing with people who agree with you. It's revealed when you're dealing with people who are wrong. And whether you choose criticism or understanding in that moment tells you everything about who you really are. So here's an uncomfortable question that I want you to sit with. What would change in your life if you stopped criticizing for 1 week? What would change in your marriage if you stopped pointing out everything your spouse did wrong? What would change at work if you stopped criticizing your team and started asking questions that helped them discover better solutions? What would change with your kids if you stopped condemning their mistakes and started understanding why they made them? Because the reality is, most of the damage in your relationships isn't from big blow-ups. It's from daily drips of criticism. It's about 1,000 small moments where you chose to be right instead of kind. And you tell yourself it's fine because you were justified. They needed to hear it. It was for their own good. But look at the results. Look at the distance. Look at the walls. Look at the people who used to be close to you but aren't anymore. Was it truly worth it? Real self-control isn't sexy. It's the moments where you feel the criticism building up and you choose to swallow it. It's the discipline to ask the questions instead of making a statement. It's the character to let someone save face when you know that they're wrong. Criticism is dangerous because it wounds the person's precious pride. It hurts their sense of importance and arouses resentment in them. Every time you criticize, you're choosing your ego over the relationship. You're choosing comfort over influence. Every time you condemn, you're choosing being right over being effective. And most fools make that choice every single day. But you're not most people. At least you don't want to be. You want to be the person who builds, who leads, who influences, who people actually want to be around and learn from. And that person, they have character. They have self-control. Not the self-control that avoids cookies, even though that's good to have, but the self-control to avoid destroying relationships with what you say. Here's your challenge for the week. And I'm warning you right now, this is going to be harder than you actually think it will be. For the next 7 days, I want you to eliminate 3 things from how you communicate. The first is criticism. Do not criticize anyone, not your spouse, not your kids, not your coworkers, not the driver who cuts you off in traffic. Nobody. The second, condemnation. Do not tell anyone that they're wrong, even when they are, especially when they are. And the third is complaint. Do not complain about anything, not the weather, not the traffic, not your situation. And I mean nothing. Instead, every time you feel the urge to do one of those 3 things, replace it with either a question that helps the other person think or silence. That's it. 7 days, no criticism, no condemnation, no complaint. And here is why this is going to be so brutal. You're going to realize how much of your daily communication is built on those 3 things. You're going to catch yourself 100 times or more a day. And that's good because awareness is the first step to change. If you want to know if you have self-control, this will show you. You want to know if you are a drifter or an operator? This will reveal it. And at the end of the week, I want you to pay attention to what changed. Did your relationships improve? Did people open up more? Did you actually have more influence and not less? Because Carnegie was right. Any fool can criticize, condemn, or complain. And most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving. It takes discipline to build instead of destroy. It takes ownership of your words, your impulses, and your pride. Let me leave you with this. You're going to mess up this week. You're going to criticize someone, you're going to complain, and you're going to condemn. And when you do, don't beat yourself up about it. Just notice it, acknowledge it, apologize if you need to, and try again. This is not about perfection. It's about becoming the kind of person who has influence because people want to be around you, not because you force them to listen. The discipline you're avoiding isn't in the gym. It's not in your diet. It's in the space between the impulse to criticize and the choice to understand. And that's where freedom is built. That's where character is formed. That's where you become the kind of person who actually changes lives instead of just pointing out what's wrong with them. Standards over feelings. Ownership creates momentum. Freedom isn't found, it's built. If this episode made you stop, made you check yourself, and strive to live each day better than the last, share it out. Because together we can build a world where we all strive to be better than we were yesterday, one at a time. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and I will catch you guys on the next one.